Right, everyone. Looks like just about time, so we can go ahead and get started now. I want to offer you all a warm welcome to this month's cataloging Q&A session. My name is Rhiannon Williams. I'm a product owner here at TLC, and I'm joined by Kim Mumbower, product manager here at TLC. And both of us have a focus on cataloging and both like title and item metadata workflows and things like that. So this is a sort of a monthly standing meeting we have for just any and all questions that you may have related to cataloging, maybe more broadly around, cataloging standards or procedures, or, you have a workflow question. And then also just those more specific to library.solution, library.solution for schools, and Carl Solution as well. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we can go ahead and get started with some of the questions that you all might have. We do have a couple of questions that were submitted ahead of time, so Kim and I have been looking those over, and so we've got some that we can talk to first. Do you want to go ahead, Kim?
Sure. This one of the questions from one of the catalogers here, she sent several questions, so we have quite a few. But feel free to interrupt at any point, with your questions. So the first question is, does the 082 and the 092 fields show in the PAC? If so, where? So there's a couple, typically it shows in the title details page, and let me get to that page, which let me share my screen. Be easier to show you. Hang on,
Let
I've
me
got to get
stop
myself.
sharing my screen.
Oh yeah, that's
That would
true.
help.
I just was trying to remember where the button is. These things change around on me. Okay. I think it's easier to show you where it is than to try to explain it.
Yeah,
You have to go, the setting is an LS2 admin, but let me first, uh, what's the easiest way to show you? So let me show you first where that it is in LS2 PAC, and we'll find a title. Let's see. I just did some work in cataloging, added some titles. Hang on, let me jump over to LS2 cataloging to remind myself what titles I put into the. No, that's not the right space. I prepared kind of, as you can tell, I'm always kind of scattered here. Let me sort, I think it's on this page. I've got a couple local titles. So let me just bring up this triple threat and bring it up in PAC. Very handy, that option. And hopefully it'll show up. Sometimes they don't. And I don't think this one showed up. Nope, it's here. Okay, if you have it configured to display, this is the portion I'm talking about, the details page. And there's a whole series of settings in LS2 admin where if it's not showing up, and I'm checking to see how this is configured. We have a lot of servers and never too sure what's configured, but I don't see a classification. The 082 is for the DUI number, and the 092 is for your local shelf location. A lot of catalogers use that as an item suggestion in LS2 cataloging, or printing labels back in library.solution 4.x. Hopefully that made sense. All right, so let me go back into so you want this to show up on this page. You need to configure it to do so. And to do that, you go into LS2 admin, which I've already logged into here. I logged in under libadmin. Let me just move my screen down. I've got the Zoom thing showing. So you can see that there are multiple configurations. If it'll respond, maybe there's only one. There's only one. Yeah, so being a little cranky. If you have multiple configurations, as back on library system, you see we really only have one here. I don't know why this clean config isn't showing up in my list. I drop down list up here in this top, but at any rate, you want to find the configuration that's for your library if you are in a multiple site library. And you go to this little blue tab here called LS2 PAC, second one from the right side. And then you select title details setup. And by the way, I have a blog post and a downloadable document that goes through all of this, all how to configure title details setup. So if you look for it on LS Community Catalogers Corner, you'll find it there. So you go to this page here. Now, if you don't, you might already have a classification section already configured, in which case you just double check to make sure that the 082 and the 092 are displayed. And as you can see, we don't really have anything that says classification. So I'm going to create one. So I'm going to add a display field, which is this button here on the lower left. I'm waving my cursor around so you can kind of see it. And put my fingers down. I'm just going to call it classification. You may not want to use that word for the users that may not have an idea what you're talking about. You could put something like shelf location, or I'll just call it classification for now. And then you want to enter the MARC field that you want to see displayed, and you put in all the various subfields. Now, by default, you could put in every subfield in existence, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'll just go that far. You could also look at the MARC standards to figure out, I can't remember how many subfields are in the 082, so I could look that up, which I have it bookmarked, so let me double check. Might as well be thorough here. Hello? It's just being slow today. Or MARC is down today. Okay, well, we won't take time to look at that up. Because if in doubt, you can just type every subfield there is available in the world. You can copy that from other sections where they have the whole string. But I know that the 092 we really only want one subfield, so I type in the 092. And I'm just going to type A because that's all we really need there. Does that make sense so far? So we've got a name of our section called classification. We have the data here, two data fields, and the subfields that we want to see visible. You don't have to display everything. You can select which subfield to display. And then I'm going to save it. Now, you can save changes to the PAC just in case something happens. It's going to save the changes to this configuration. So it says PAC there. That's the name of the configuration we're working on. If you have a configuration called My Library, it'll say Save Changes to My Library. It's a little confusing there. But I'm going to go ahead and save it just in the case I'm interrupted. But I don't want classification to show at the very bottom of the page. So I'm going to change this number to be something higher. So I'm going to put it after, let's say, maybe after contributors, or doesn't really matter where you can put it. You can just try one and see. I'm going to change it to be after subjects. How's that? So I'm going to change this to be 6. And that's all I have to touch. I'm going to go update field display order. And it's going to move the one I just entered, classification, up here to the 6th one in the display, and everything else gets shifted down. So that piece is automatic. And then I'm going to save the changes again. Now, it does take a few moments for PAC to show those changes. I have never timed it. Let me just see if it's already changed. It might have changed. Yep, and it did. So it's within a minute, maybe. You'll see that I only had an 082 field apparently in this record. I didn't double check that there was an 092, but if there was a 092, that would display here as well. I think that's it. Any questions on this so far? On this one question? Let me go back to chat.
Yeah, we don't have any follow-up questions.
Okay.
I think that was super helpful.
Yeah, I've lost open up my chat screen.
I'll talk about the next question we have in here.
Okay.
It ties into that. This is
Should I stop sharing?
Sure, if you want to. We
Okay.
can bounce back and forth and share as we need to.
Okay.
That'll be fine. So this next question is related also to the 082 field. And they ask, will we ever get the ability to add the subfield M without going to Bibliofile, because they use that optional designation for the 220 through the 299s for the Dewey classification. So that's something that's not available right now. I encourage you to submit an idea on LS ideas because we utilize those ideas to prioritize, what's coming next in development based on customer demand. And so I encourage you to submit an idea. And if there's something else, any other catalogers who are wanting to utilize the subfield M, in the 082 field, and that's something that you would like, feel free to upvote that once that's added in there, because that's very helpful for us to know how important some of these things are for prioritization of when things get done. We would like to add it, but gotta shift things around as priorities come up. So the thing I want to know is this is also something you is this something the information that you're putting in the subfield M, is this something that could be placed into like a local note, which would then be in the available in the title tab, and then it could display in the LS2 PAC with that same configuration. You could set up for local notes to display if you wanted that. If so, that could be another workaround to put that information in there. So it's just an idea of a possibility for utilizing what's available right now, but we would love an idea and some upvotes if that's something that you would like to see added in the future.
All right, so the next one has to do with the physical description. So the question is, in the 300 field of the MARC record, the punctuation does not show. That would be a colon and a semicolon. The punctuation is correct when I upload the record. Is this happening to anyone else? It's happening to everybody at the moment. And let me share my screen so I can show you what's going on. Hang on, I gotta find my Zoom meeting again. I'll get there. Okay, I think you can all see it. So let me go into my cataloging. So this is a known issue. You're seeing my little notes here about it at the same time. Let me get back to my space. So this is a known issue with punctuation. The punctuation is removed on display in the editor, but prior to 580, which has some improvement to this issue, the when the display is in the title tab, when you're looking at the draft and you're looking at the record and you publish it or republish it, it doesn't see any punctuation in those physical description fields, so it removes them from the MARC record, essentially. I think it also occurring on import, although I'm not positive on that. But somehow a lot of the records, a lot of titles that you've imported or migrated might be missing the punctuation in what's called officially the between subfield punctuation in the physical description field. Let me bring up a record here. I'll bring up a different one. So let me make sure that if this one is one that has one. Nope, it does not. All right, so this is typically what you're seeing. Of course, in the editor, I'm in the view mode here. This punctuation is automatically not displaying in the editor. As a side note, as we do development on various pieces of the title tab, we are the developers are putting back in the display of all between subfield punctuation so that you will know what's in that field. I know the reasons why the original team decided to strip that punctuation, because in a form, it isn't necessary, and we're moving towards MARC records not having any between subfield punctuation. But in the meantime, we are planning to fix this, but we want to make some improvements to the way punctuation is displayed. But let me talk about what's happening and how you can fix it now, and so that way you can resolve this. So you'll see that there's no display there. Let me go into edit and go back down to physical description. Come on, pay attention. I love this navigation menu, by the way. So I can add it back. So let me add in this case, that needs a semicolon, right? Between subfield punctuation, when it goes from subfield A to subfield C, just gets a semicolon. If I had details in the subfield B, then I would be putting in a colon here and then a comma. Before I move on, let me just say that users usually can figure out the display in the physical description, even though there is no colon or a semicolon. Most users reading that line of data can understand that this is a paging, here's more details, and here's some other additional information. They kind of read it. So, but I understand catalogers might want to fix the punctuation as they go. I think there's a period. Can't remember now if RDA lets you put a period in here or not. Does anyone remember off the top of your head? I think they do want you to punctuate the measurements. Well, I'll just leave it out for the moment. Okay, so I have this punctuation was removed from the record. I have replaced it, and I'm going to republish. And I'll show you. So the workaround right now, there is an improvement coming in 5.8.0, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But if you see this and you want to return that punctuation, now of course I'm in edit mode. You will not see the punctuation because this editor is still removing it from display. However, I could look at the mark view, and which if I go into view mode, I mean edit mode, I'm sorry, the same thing's occurring because again the editor is still removing the uh, punctuation. That's what we hope to change. Let me go into mark view. Can you all see this okay? I can make my screen a little bigger. Let me know if you need to still bigger. So I added the punctuation back, and here it is. That semicolon is back now. So if you encounter a record where the punctuation between the subfields in physical description have been removed, you can add it back. Moving forward in 5.8.0, there is some improvement so that if the record comes into the database with punctuation in the physical description between subfields, it will remain there unless you edit the record. If you edit the record and don't put that punctuation back, it may disappear. So you may have to, after you've made edits to physical description or you're adding a new physical description, you want to add the punctuation as well. And then when you republish, that punctuation remains in place. Does that help? At some point, we have a number of punctuation issues that we haven't fixed yet in the record in a number of fields. We have so many high priority fixes and new features that we just haven't had development time to go in and fix the punctuation in all of these fields. So you will see some odd punctuation occurring still. Hopefully that helped. Did I confuse everybody? Are there any questions? You know me, I like to give you all this information and maybe I give you too much. Remember that the PCC is recommending, I'm just going to give you a blurb about linked data and what's happening out there in the library world. PCC recommended several years ago that that catalogers have the choice to remove all between subfield punctuation and terminal punctuation in a MARC record. In the MARC record, you don't have any punctuation except where it's part of the authorized form of the name, like there's an abbreviation in the name, or parentheses around a name or a subject. Because the punctuation is a display, is really about displaying the data to the user, and that should be done in the display, in PAC, for example. So you'll start with linked data. A lot of the catalogers who are cataloging in linked data are not adding the punctuation into their MARC records. And when the data is converted from BibFrame into MARC for distribution, some of that punctuation is not being put back in. So you may just naturally encounter more and more records coming in that you import and download that are lacking punctuation between subfields. At some point, the development team might have to make the decision to strip all punctuation from the MARC record and move all the punctuation up to the display level, but that's a ways off because we still have a lot of libraries and catalogers that are still using older records. So, okay, that's all I had to. That's all my blurb for now.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I
Yeah,
think that was great
I'm gonna stop sharing.
lots of information there. I have been trying to pull up this another thing to show for the next question. We got a question in the chat or in the Q&A box from Catherine, and I want to be able to show where this blog post that Kim wrote is on.
I guess I don't.
Let me see where. I'm searching on community because I know we have a blog post for it. I'm just trying to figure out which one is the one we're looking for. Because I have a copy of it in Google Drive. So I just find the one that's on the blog post that's on community to be able to share that with all of you. Let's see. Looking through here, but I'll talk
But
through the question first. So Catherine asked, when browsing by call number in the pack via advanced search, is that pulling from the 082, the 092, or the shelf location assigned to the item level? So for the when it's searching for call number, I'm looking here at our how we have them all indexed. So the call number, it's pulling in both the local call number, I believe, the 949 with and without a prefix, as well as the call number of the shelf location, which is and it's pulling the first available item from that of the first available item there. So I'm trying to see where this document lives on LS Community so I can share that with you all. One moment. Search for the right title. Might take me a moment to pull this one up, unfortunately. I'm trying to see where this blog post is. But
yeah, I'm trying to help, but I'm having slowness too.
but I know that this information is available within LS2 admin help, and there's a document for the indexes in LS2 PAC, and it provides the same list of all of the indexed title data fields and the subfields that are used within LS2 PAC. And so, yeah, for what it's saying for the local call number, it says it's the 949, both with and without the prefix, and then the call number or shelf location, it's pulling that first available item. So that's where it's pulling that information. It doesn't give an exact indicator of what fields it's pulling from, but my assumption is it would be the 082 and the 092. But I'm not.
Or just the 092 maybe. Good
Yeah,
question. For local call
yeah,
number. Yeah.
yeah. That's a great question, Catherine, and I can see if I can dig into that a little bit more and get some more specifics on that um, for you. So yeah, I don't know. I can't seem to find this blog post in here. We have a version of it online somewhere, but I'll make sure to get that shared out. And then we also have a question here from Jenna. And Jenna says, apologies for the long one. No worries. Don't worry about it. Can you speak to the content rating field that's on display in the pack? Looked at a lot of packs recently. It seems to be a standard field that displays, but it doesn't seem to be indexed or filterable for search results. Mostly 385 fields, but I'm receiving more and more books that have audience that come in. And an adult fiction book that came in as rated R with a record from OSA. Should I just hide the content rating from PAC before a patron misunderstands the information? So when I'm gonna that kind of ties back into this too, with the how things are being shared. So yeah, that content rating is part of the characteristics field that are added as part of the RDA characteristics, and it is the 385 subfield A. And that content rating is something that is being added in by RDA Express when you're adding in records and when you're updating them. And it's automatically adding that content rating. And it's adding it, correct me if I'm wrong, Kim, it's adding it based on the content that's in the title record itself. It's basing it off of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends on the information that's in the title record. So if it's applying like a rated R to that record, it's pulling that from somewhere in the title record. So I'm not exactly sure why it would try and assign rated R to a book, because that's not correct. So I don't know why exactly it would be doing that.
It could be someone catalogers deliberately added that field to the record. Remember that a number of schools in particular, but also public libraries, with the number of challenges and book challenges and the communities that are trying to get to make a clear label to a book content so that they know they're aware. It could be a cataloger decided to add that. Maybe that's a policy in their particular library or school where they want to indicate the content with that adult fiction. So maybe then they prevent people from a younger age from checking it out, something like that. You don't know exactly if you know where the record came from, Jenna. We might be able to give you some ideas. I know that some of the vendors are starting to put accessibility information in records. They could also be doing more of the ratings. I'm not aware of any organization that looks at books and labels them that way. It's usually games or graphic novels, or I think graphic novels might be the. I wonder if they're doing that with graphic novels now. I don't know. But,
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't believe that it's anything that's being like automatically added from our system because I believe we
right.
have checks in place that it's not adding those to like non-DVD or, game or, something like that, non-projected media titles because that's what those designations are typically for. So my guess is that the book challenge. Yeah, that totally makes sense. In
Yeah,
your record. Gotcha.
RDA does look at the 520, I believe. If not I mean, not 521. Is that the code field? Hang on, I've gone blank. 521 or 526? The program information, where the ratings are
Mm,
for DVDs. Isn't that five? Let me see if I can bring up my mark code again. Anyway, that's what RDA is looking for, is that note field for program information or audience. 521, target audience.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Jenna. That definitely does stand out to me as something that was interesting. My guess is that it would be something that was added in as a designation, either by a cataloger from the vendor as a note that this was adult material or something like that. John says that used to have the rating suppressed because books were getting the rating field included. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's good to know. That's something I want to look at to see if there's something that's happening on our end that's adding those in for books that shouldn't have that rating information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make sure that that's not happening on our end, or it might be something coming from the from vendors or something else. But we'll definitely look into that. Yeah, Mary, that makes sense to add ratings for graphic novels.
Yeah, that's where.
You know, yeah,
And that could be
that
tags. I don't know if you're seeing tags in that record either in PAC. There could be people, your community, someone in your community putting tags on the records if you allow that. And they could be putting that in there too. But those tags
mm,
wouldn't show up in the MARC record.
yeah,
These are great questions.
yeah, I agree. We've got some other questions here in our Q&A. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be in the mark that displays in OSA. Interesting. Okay, so I will definitely look into that, Jenna. That's very helpful. I want to dig into that and see why that's being added. I will definitely look into that. Um,
Let's
we
see.
have another question here from Kim. So they're still on 4X, but she asked that when the classification shows up in PAC, does the actual collection show up? Having just the Dewey number isn't really helpful as we have non-standard numbers as well. Um, yeah, let me see if I can get up a
You want?
LS2 PAC to show what that looks like. I
I'm
don't know if
looking
you
at.
have one ready to go.
No, but I'm looking at the LS2. I have a copy of the
Oh,
index data in
oh,
LS2
gotcha. Yeah,
admin, if that would help to
great.
show
Yeah,
the.
yeah, I think that would be
Um,
helpful.
we should probably post that on our catalogers corner somewhere. Copy of
Yeah,
this.
I agree. I think that would be very helpful.
I'll share my screen
Awesome.
real fast just to
Yeah,
show you the list.
and yeah, that'd be great. And thank you, Jenna, yeah, for emailing me with details. That's very helpful.
Yeah, this is a copy from LS2 admin under help in the help. I searched by the word indexes and got this document which I copied. So collection shows up as based on your holdings code. So in the pack, of course, you're in the facet. These are the facets on the left side of the pack screen. Collection will show up. It's pulling the based on the wording in your holdings code, and then it also shows up if you have it as an item like a shelf location, where you have the collection there. And the item data, should I show you an example? Would that help? Uh, Here, I'm gonna go back into here. You probably see these little things. I don't. I'm not familiar with this database well enough. That's not very helpful. Let me look for a book. I don't know if this is probably not a great example, but uh, maybe I'll get the gist across. Hang on. I need something a little more broad, like fantasy. Hmm. This is okay. The reason I'm having struggling here is because the view is very different in 580. There's been some work done in LS2 PAC, which
Yeah.
I went blank thinking, where are the facets? Well, they are down. They're just moving things around, and things look different. And I haven't done enough testing in 580 and PAC yet. Just have heard about and seen it in various demos and everything. Anyway, the facet over here, collection, this will be displaying the holdings code name. So if someone is using the facets, they will see the name of your of collection. That'll help. But when you go into an actual book, title details, and you look at the copies, then they will see not only your whatever you've classified at your shelf location, but also the collection name as well. Does that help? I'm trying to think if there's any other place where you could. Hang on, I got to figure out where they moved advanced search. I think that's it. Yeah. I don't know that there's anything different.
So
It'd be
Kim says
local
they have
column.
to click a different page to see where to find it. So yeah, in the
Yeah, 4X. Yeah. Right? 4X.
oh, she was asking about how it looks in 5X when
Oh,
you are,
5X. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, when you have your search results page, you get your, all the results of your search and it'll show, one available or however many that are available at your location. If you have it configured to your pack configuration to show, for one location and show what's there, um, you may be able to see what's actually available there. Again,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Kim, there's been a lot of changes in pack and how it looks.
I
And
I
yeah.
think they may have condensed. We only have one location, one pack configuration, so we should be seeing the call number. But I believe that's a change they made because they wanted more white space. They needed more room
Mm,
to try to improve the display. So your pack may look a little different. Um,
where's my, there we go. Go ahead and share this screen here. So with the broad search here, it was like a, search all branches. So it was, showing all locations there, but I've narrowed it down to just searching one single location. And so here it does show the shelf location information here next to the um, next to them. Even for those that are not available, it does show where it would be shelved at as well, or shows on order information for those. So, but for any of the ones that are available, it shows the shelf location of where they're at, and then they can easily place a hold or add it to a list right here from the search results page. It's a little bit different display depending on whether you've got multiple locations and it's searching for those. If you have those multiple locations, it'll say one or three available at all locations, and then you can narrow it down by looking at that all copies page. But if you've got it narrowed down to a specific location, it shows there. And I agree. Yes, thank you, Valerie, for sharing that. I don't know why I couldn't find that one in there, but that is very helpful to have that, on LS Community. You do have access to it there, and LS2 admin help, but that's a great reference. I should bookmark that one. That's a great thing to have bookmarked. But yeah, I hope that is helpful. Yeah, okay. You're welcome, Kim. I'll go ahead and stop sharing and we can hop into another
yeah,
question.
I've forgotten about the blog post, so thank you. I'd already forgotten about it. I've written too many posts, I guess, since then. That's something we probably want to improve in Cataloger's Corner so you can search the blog posts more easily than
I,
having to scroll. Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree.
Now that we're
And plus
bigger.
yeah, and the big search bar at the top, it's searching all of
I
Ellis
know.
community and it's searching all of them. So
Yeah.
that's a great idea,
Yeah.
Kim. That's something I'd like to see.
There's always ways to
Um,
improve.
yeah, for sure. We have another question here, another live question from Sydney. So she asked, in LS2
Oh.
cataloging, I'm experiencing Library of Congress personal name authorities that have subfield order changed from
Yes.
AQD to ADQ. Is this to be fixed in a future update? They show up as an ITS MARC authority and they're not a local. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's something that we've noticed and come across. It's something I think we've noticed a little bit more recently that is happening, and it's something we definitely want to get addressed because that's not helpful at all because they're
I think
getting
I have
put
a
out of order.
I think I put a card on the board to have a developer take a look at that and rearrange it. If
Yeah.
not, we can try to sneak it in. We're about to do some, hopefully soon, in some authority-related work, and might be able to get this
Hmm.
fixed as part of that work. Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah, it's putting it in alphabetical order instead of the way the Library of Congress prefers, or MARC prefers to have the data. It's searching. It still searches okay. It's more of a display issue from what I found. I mean, I'm still able to. Yeah, I know. Not
yeah,
ideal.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Thanks for bringing that up, Sydney. That's something that we have on our radar and something we'd like to get fixed sometime soon. Of course. And I know we've got a couple, I think we've got a couple more questions here from that were submitted ahead of time. Let's see. So we have another question asking about being able to add multiple 520 fields. And they asked when that will be available. And that's something that's coming in our next release in version 5.8. I wanted to go ahead and share what that sort of looks like. Here, so I'll go ahead and share my screen once again. I'll share that tab. There we go. So here I have a title. I don't have multiple ones in here already, but I can add them in. So this is a 5.8 environment. So you saw the the cool changes and all the updated changes to LS2 PAC. And so there's also the option to add multiple summary notes here in LS2 cataloging. So I can easily add another one in here. I'll just add in some mock data here, and I can go ahead and, whoop, there we go, save in. And once I hit done and I get exit out of the edit title mode, it does add those summaries here. And so they display in line. So you can have, it's a repeatable field. So you can add as many as you need in there. And if they're larger, it's not a great example because it's not actually bigger than here, but if they're larger, they've got the expandable and collapsible boxes there. And then might be able to show a little bit later what that looks like in PAC. I don't know if I have a title already that has multiple summaries pushed to PAC yet, but we can see if we can get that one updated here shortly. It'll take a little bit while for those deltas to pick it up. But in the meantime, I think we've got another question here. And this question was, can we request series to be added to the ITS MARC drop-down glossary? So the series title is, so it's searching for those series titles that are within the ITS MARC authorities in that drop-down are being pulled in from the TLC series service. So it's, kind of limited right now to what we have currently configured, and there's about 5,000 series titles in there right now. And we do have development planned in order to search both our series service where we have those like already configured and we have like the most common form of the series title. We also want to be able to add that check for it to search the Library of Congress Uniform Title Index, which is where series titles are stored for from Library of Congress, since they're a subset of uniform titles. And so we would like to add that in the future as something to be able to search for all of those. Currently, that's not something available. You can add series titles to your records using a local series title authority record. You can create your own local one, and then however you want it formatted so that it displays how you want. And then once you have it verified, then you can always use that one when you're searching in the dropdown. So it's something that we would love to get improved in the future, but it's not available right now to search from the Uniform Title Index for a series title, since their series titles are lumped into the Uniform Title Index. So hopefully that was helpful, talking a bit about the series titles and some of the workflows of that.
The authority matching process is looking at the Library of Congress uniform title records. And so you will often see them as coming in verified. But that's only the series title that's in a MARC 830 that's working right. But when you go to search for that same series, and you won't see it in its MARC because unless it's been saved to a local authority, because LS2 cataloging editor will not search the Library of Congress Uniform Title Index as yet. This is high on my priority list, and we're hoping to do some development soon to kind of revamp name plus series title data fields, the 800, along with improving the way it's letting you search the Library of Congress Uniform Title Index for a series title, kind of treating them together with uniform titles. So, just trying to give you some background, hopefully. I think there's an idea for that if you wanted to add your comment there.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. Either upvote or add a comment saying that's something you'd like to see. I think that's most of all the questions we had prepared, submitted ahead of time. We've got through our list of questions in the Q&A. Does anyone have any other questions? I'm still waiting for my deltas to update so I could show you what the multiple summaries look like.
The the latest release is about ready to go to early adopters for testing. If anyone, you could still go, if you want to go ahead and upgrade, you could always submit your case if you wanted to get your library into the queue to be upgraded when it becomes available for general release. Or if you are an early adopter, you maybe get a phone call and get it sooner than other people. So it's coming. All these great improvements are coming.
Yes, we are super, super excited for our early adopters to get this in their hands and to get to see all of the really cool changes. There's so many. It's a really big release, not just in cataloging, but all across it.
There's
across
a lot
all
of
the
changes.
modules. So we're really excited to see all the things that you guys can do with all the improvements we've made.
And we have about 25 blog posts coming. Rhiannon has done the majority of them. I've just done a couple. Rhiannon did most. So we're going to have those start showing up in LS Community's Catalogers Corner blog post. Yeah. The blog posts are really great because they're screenshots and they focus on one thing at a time. So it really be helpful resource for you, all of you.
Yeah, and the 5.8 release notes are available up on LS Community now. So if you would like to kind of dive in and see all of the information on the specific changes, both in cataloging and across all of the different parts of the software, those are available on LS Community now if you'd like to see what's coming and see if you would like to get into that upgrade queue for when that is available. And we did have a couple of questions that came in. So we have a question here from Sydney. Is it possible to remove by default the title locking feature in the coming update? So it's not possible to, turn that off. It's the process, like the thought process and the philosophy, I guess, behind the title locking feature was that, prevention of data loss. And we know that may not be the biggest concern, especially for like smaller libraries where there's only one cataloger or, a few where you're not having multiple users, changing title records at the same time. We've gotten some really great feedback already from customers and some ideas from internally from testers of some improvements we'd like to make in the future to that workflow to, maybe just like bypass the whole, be able to click on it and then go straight into the edit mode like it is currently. So that's not something that's going to be available in the next release, but it's something I would really like to see added in a future one. So if you'd like to hear more about the specifics of the title locking and some of the more like nitty-gritty details, there's like, I think there's three, it's like a 3 or 4 part blog post on title locking specifically, tons of screenshots and talking through the workflows and how that's a little bit different and how that's going to change in the future. So I'd say keep an eye out for that. And we definitely know that there's some improvements that could be made for different types of libraries and different like staffing situations. So we'd like to add that in the future, but that's not something that's going to be available in version 5.8.
And to be honest, we're not too sure how often the situation has occurred where you had two people working on the same record and one person published theirs before the other and lost some edits as a result. So you may never even notice title locking occurring in some cases. We don't know exactly how that often this occurs.
Yeah, that's very true.
But we knew we needed to protect the data, so that's why we put that in place.
Yeah. We do have another question here from Valerie. So is TLC doing anything in particular to prepare for the lack of the subfield V form subdivision in subjects when Library of Congress stops including them? Do you have anything in particular to say on that, Kim?
Well, we haven't talked about it, but you can always add it as a
Yeah.
genre form. Remember the genre glossary is actually genre term and form term. We just shortened
Mm,
it to genre glossary. So, and of course, you've got form of work as one of the characteristics. So you have data showing up in other places. We haven't talked about that. Uh, and I'm not sure what we would do because it's a MARC record coming in. If you don't see that data, then you would have to I mean, I'm sure we could think of something, but it'd be easy enough to put in that. If you notice that the form subdivision is missing on that subject, you can simply add it as a genre form in the glossary,
yeah.
or make sure the form of work is there too. I don't know, it's something we'll have to think about and talk about and see if there's anything we can do to automate that portion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point, Valerie, that, there's been a lot of changes to how Library of Congress is, making their records, both in like now cataloging in BibFrame and then converting them into MARC and then sharing them out and that they're providing less information in certain fields, especially in fixed data fields. They're providing less and less information and putting more of that into those RDA fields since there's duplication of information there. So yeah, yeah, subdivisions are not necessarily equivalent to genre form terms. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a change. I totally get that. Yeah, Kim, that's a great point, and I think Kim and I will we'll have a meeting sometime soon to talk through that. Because there's a lot of like changes that are happening as far as like records that are coming from Library of Congress and from vendors and how they're being what information they're including and where it's being included. So
Yeah, there's going to be a
there's
lot less
definitely,
duplication, shorter records.
yeah,
Um, I don't see. I'm looking up this next one about the language material
gotcha.
one. I'll have to look that up. I think it's missing a code in the 008 field, which doesn't help. Um,
Yeah,
so language material is like the really highest level, which means it's missing something in that record to show it as book. So I'm trying to remember what it is. I think it's a space somewhere. Hang on. I'll get that data for you. But we are working on change format development, and eventually you'll be able to push a button that says, make this a book format.
yes.
And let me go to a different
We
document.
are so excited. I'm pretty sure that we have like the first one of the first cards in that set are like going through. Like we're active development right now. We're very, very excited about that coming through and we're hoping to be able to talk more about all of the exciting changes with change format and some of the other we have like quite a few changes to those like automatic processes coming in LS2 cataloging in our next release after 5.8 is out, and I'm excited to talk more about those in the future. So we've got lots of things to be excited about for sure.
I'll post I'll copy the MARC data there for you. But in the meantime, it is a more complex question because it's a Vox book, and I've been waiting for a number of years to get playaway formats, similar formats. Isn't Vox Book one of those devices where you have a book and then this recording? Yeah. For a
Hmm.
Vox, isn't Vox like some of the others of those sort of automated, not automated, it's a combination of a book plus a recording, sound recording. So they're coming across as like an e-audio book in some cases. I'm surprised yours showed up at language material, but at any rate, I'll post the code to make it a book. Um, it needs to be this byte 23, the 008 field needs to have one of these codes, DFR space or a pipe. So that doesn't help you in terms of LS2 cataloging because you don't have access to that information. So I would just um, you could export them out and work on them, or before you import them, look at them in eBibliophile. I mean, not eBibliophile, but Bibliofile, and make sure that that byte has data in there, so it'll be showing up as a book. Brenda, are you on 5X or 4X? I think 4X might have a different code. Um,
On 5X. Okay.
5X, okay. All right. Yeah. Did LS2 cataloging show it as language, or is that LS2 PAC? Because sometimes there's a difference. Um, anyway, apparently those records are missing the appropriate code that I've put in the chat there. It's all very complicated, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, because there's just so many different options there. But yeah, that's something that could be changed. I guess another option is, even though you load it in from a vendor, you could always use that match again and see if you can find that same record, but a similar record, different
Mhm.
format from a Z3950 source or from its mark, and then pull that in and if that's a route you wanted to go, since rather than using an external
Oh,
mark editor like Bibliofile to change that information.
hang on. I pasted that in the chat Q&A, not chat. Hang on.
Oh,
Let me
oh,
come
I
back to
see
the
that now.
chat.
That's okay.
I had both open and I got in the wrong field. So here it comes. All right. Sorry about that. Now it's in chat.
It's all right.
Yeah, they do
And I
show
did,
up different formats.
yeah. We do have another question here. Can you use macros in Bibliophile? Yes, there are. You definitely can use macros in Bibliophile. There are in the Bibliophile help file that's part of it. There's a really great like macro section that talks through all the different functions that you can do and the different um, variables and how to build those macros. Kim, do you know, have you written a blog post in the past on some like popular macros in Bibliophile? I don't know if we have something like
No,
that.
no, it's a good topic.
I think
We
that
need
could, yeah, I think
ideas.
that could be useful to have that because we have a lot of catalogers who are using Bibliophile in addition to LS2 cataloging. Kim and I use it all the time for certain workflows. So, um, yeah, I might actually, I might put out a survey or an email or something to get some feedback from you all if there's like certain macros that you use in Bibliophile that was super
Yeah,
helpful.
we
Um,
could maybe do a whole webinar on it too.
yeah, yeah, talk through, the basics of how to build a macro, how to use them, and then the different options available. Because there's a couple of different settings as far as like what it does if it encounters an error, or there's different options to configure macros within Bibliophile. And if you're using um, LS cataloging in a 4X environment, you do have the option to export macros and bring them into Bibliophile. Is that correct, Kim?
I'm sorry,
I
tell me
think
again. I
so.
was thinking of chat.
Oh, no, you're fine.
What?
Can you export macros from LS cataloging in 4X and bring them into Bibliophile?
I believe so. We should be,
Okay.
yes, because you can import. So I don't know
I
about the
thought
file
that was how
file
it works.
extension. I think
Yeah.
Bibliofile would have an option to import something from Forex. Yeah, pretty sure, but because it's the same syntax being used,
Hmm.
so you might have to tweak the file extension a bit, but um, try it and see. It should work.
Yeah. And yeah, that's something I could definitely, I think that's a great idea for a webinar in the future. Talk about both the macro specifically and all the different options available and give you guys a chance to share your favorite macros. Um, I'm going to make a note of that. I think that would be very helpful. So that's a great question. Thanks for asking about that. Um, Talking about the Wonder Books, compared the marker of a Wonder Book to the Vox book and didn't see any difference in the 006 or 008. Could be a missing space.
Yeah,
That's
just
totally possible. It's if it's something missing in there. That's interesting that it's
yeah. Brenda
one
just
showing up
responded
as
to
one.
me directly. She said the Wonder Book has a space in the 00823, and the Vox book has a Q. Now, a Q is technically correct. That is direct electronic, but um, there's some format, library.solution still having some issues with the MARC parsing criteria between the old version, which is still in use with LS2 PAC, and the newer version, which is in LS2 cataloging. So there's some weirdness going on there with that.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah,
often
especially
show up.
since it's
Go
yeah,
ahead.
since it's showing as language material, but then you're also saying it's direct electronic, like it's there's
It
some
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't know
yeah,
what to do
it's
with
getting
it. So,
confused.
yeah, 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 and I've got that. I've been trying. That's another one we've been trying. It keeps almost getting up into the high priority backlog, and then it gets pushed down by other priorities. So we keep trying to get it so that all of 5X applications are all using the same criteria for identifying the mark, parsing that mark data and making it meet a format. So unfortunately, LS2 cataloging is on the newer version, which is more correct. There's some inaccuracies in the older version, and so there's just some distinction between. It's mostly, so far, it's been projected video recordings and electronic resources, but now I see we also have the problem with this situation because it often shows up as technically the e-audiobook uh, queue as direct electronic and some it should be not part of an option for e-audiobook. At any rate, I won't go into details because it's tedious, but there are some problems, and so I hope that maybe that'll get fixed one of these days. So with those
Yeah.
sorts of books, you might need to tweak them in Bibliofile to get them to show up within the format that you want. So you might have to tweak those fixed length data fields, the leader 6, 7, or 8, depending on the format. Um, Maybe I should write a blog post about that too, kind of help explain that.
Yeah,
Or Brenda,
that
you
could
can
be.
you can also email me. We can set up a meeting and go through some of that. So
Yeah, for sure. And I did want to, I'll just go ahead and share my screen very briefly. We're almost at time, but I did want to show my title. I did add a second um, summary note here, and it's a short one, so there's not a whole big distinction, but uh, here I was able to add, this was my original summary note that I added that was in the title, and I added a second one there. So they add just kind of in line, still under the same summary heading, so you can have those all underneath. And again, this is part of the information that's configured, based on that setup in LS2 admin on the fields that display there. So that's sort of how they look. And if you have lots of summary notes, they just display in line here, um, one after another.
yeah, we
So
could probably
now that that's
stand.
updated,
Might need
mhm.
to. I need to tell the PAC team that they might want to add a space before inserting that second summary note. Put a
Yes,
row,
yeah, so
a
that they
nice row
show,
there, a little spacing there.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that could be helpful, like sort of like how the subjects are a little
right,
bit separated there. Yeah,
right.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna make a note of that.
yeah, just wanted to show what that looks like as a follow-up to that question. Mary said, yeah, spacing the data fields don't always work. I just add it as a new book and copy and paste the information. Saves some time. Yeah, that may also be the case too if you especially with
Yeah.
matching and things in version 5.8 with the new replace bibliographic information, replace contents only import setting, since it'll match on your control number only. Um,
Hmm.
and format's one of those things that it's trying to match on. So when you change the format of a record and you bring it in, then it's going to cause some issues matching with the with our new import option to overlay based only on control number. It'll really like streamline that process. So if you are already wanting to like export them and change them in Bibliofile or a different external MARC editor, then using that new import feature will ensure that that will match as long as the control number is the same. So that'll help in the future as well. All right. I think that's all the questions that we have thus far. Um, and we
Great
are at
questions, everybody.
time. Yes, thank you. Those were very helpful. We've got lots of great things to follow up on and ideas for future webinars too, which is very helpful. Um, Again, I want to say thank you all for joining us. Just as a heads up for our next webinar, we have another like classic presentation webinar on series title consistency in Library.Solution and Library.Solution for Schools. And that will be on May 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So I hope that you all can join us then to talk all about series title and to keep that consistency both in your LS2 PAC and LS2 cataloging and some workflows for cleaning up some series titles. But yeah, so that's all we have today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And yes, have a great weekend, everyone.